Hi everyone, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Amber.
And we're Witches Talking Tarot. And today we're going to be talking about the Wendigo. The Wendigo. I feel like people hear the Wendigo and sometimes they have it confused with skinwalkers because I was one of those.
Oh, were you?
Yeah,
I hear the Wendigo and I go, DeFago. DeFago.
What is that from?
That is from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh.
Because that is where I, a 1980s child, learned of the Wendigo in the very first place because he's got all this different folklore, and DeFago is the name of the victim in the Wendigo story in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And that, when I hear Wendigo, I think, DeFago. Because, like, the story is, like, there's a storm blowing outside, but when the hunter, like, he listens real close, he's like, it almost sounds like they're saying this guy's name, you know? And then he looks outside the tent, and there is no storm raging outside, but you can hear it. You can't see anything. There's no wind. There's no trees moving, but you can hear wind ripping all around their tent, and you hear the DeFago. And you know it's all long and drawn out because there's a bunch of A's and
yeah,
shit.
I hear you.
But that's what I think of, because that is how I learned of the Wendigo, or how I learned of the Wendigo and how I became interested into learning more.
So is the Wendigo the one with the whistling? Or no? Because I've heard this, and I didn't, like, during my research with the Wendigo, I didn't necessarily run into this, so I wasn't sure if you did, but it was like, you don't want to whistle at night, or you don't want to whistle when your windows are open, because then something will look back at you.
Shit, I know what I've heard
Is that
of that.
Wendigo? I don't think so.
I've ever heard that associated with Wendigo lore. Like, Wendigo lore, from what I know, it's
disclaimer,
this is what we've learned and what we know from, you know, just living life up until doing Witches Talking Tarot. Okay, so, like, it's up in the north. Through research I found out, like, specifically it's in the Plains and Great Lakes nations, and some of the First Nations up there, but basically the Algonquin peoples and Algonquin speaking peoples in Eastern Canada and very far North America where the Great Lakes are. And it's because it's, like, super cold up there and all that. There was a damn... It's
definitely a northern thing, and I think the whistling thing, I feel like that's more Texas, Navajo.
Yeah,
I don't know. Please let me know.
Yeah,
but
please
I'm
let us know
pretty
if there's
sure
whistling
that's
associated, because, like, I only know of it being associated with, like, winter storms, basically, and, like, famine, and, you know.
There was this video on Reddit. I believe it. I'm just going to say this. And he says that he has heard whistling his entire childhood, like his entire life growing up. Randomly, whether he's in public or walking on a walk, he'll hear the same whistle tune. And that motherfucker caught it on camera multiple times. Like, he was on a walk and just out of nowhere in the middle of the woods was that whistling tune.
So, and you know for a fact there's not, like, a person in the background.
See, I mean, I don't know that, but I do believe him. I choose to believe this story because it's
so hard for me to trust.
It could be a creepypasta, like you said. It could be someone making shit up. But if that were the case, that would be fucking creepy.
I don't want that to be my life.
Oh no, because I feel like
anytime icky is following you.
Anytime that it happened, I'd be like, okay, am I hallucinating? Am I going into a psychosis? Do you fucking hear that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Speaking of psychosis, so Wendigo actually,
it's associated with the Wendigo psychosis, which is either being compelled to eat human flesh or actually succumbing to cannibalism.
So basically, like being a cannibal. They can't call it Hannibal psychosis, so they call it Wendigo psychosis.
I mean, they totally could have called it Hannibal psychosis. I'm pretty sure Wendigo psychosis came around before Hannibal.
Oh, I'm sure. But so creepy.
Yeah, like
when I see a Wendigo, like in my head when I think about it, I do fall into the pop culture reference just because not because of movies, because there's not really movies with Wendigos, though there is one that's supposed to come out or has recently come out. I don't know why I didn't think of it. I want to watch it. I don't know if you watched it. I hear it's pretty good. Anyway, it's literally called Wendigo. I think it came out last year.
No, I haven't seen it. I think I saw it in reference when doing this research, but otherwise was unaware.
See, like, so the way that I've seen the Western or pop culture appearance of the Wendigo is honestly like on Facebook or scrolling through social media where people have shared their art of the Wendigo. Like, I've seen art of the Wendigo, but not really in movies or anything like that. Yeah. But the idea that the Wendigo has antlers or a skull face of some sort or horns, that's all made up. I mean,
yeah, like I learned about that in this research, and Maddie and I were talking, and I was like, I didn't even, because like my conception of the Wendigo is straight out of like the older lore, I guess, where it's like a gaunt person who's like looks like starvation themselves, you know,
so creepy.
And like the depiction out of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books, where it's like you don't get a picture of what the Wendigo is. Like, the Wendigo is the storm that fucking carries DeFago away. And he's like, my feet is burning. I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of DeFago. That was just for anybody else who read the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark Wendigo.
You know, like, I think of Wendigo and I think of the pop culture, like, appearance of the Wendigo. And it reminds me of, like, Mary Lode. Or is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, Mary Lode. Mary Lode.
Something like along those lines of like a skull, and it's very like skinny.
It is very reminiscent of and like I get there's a Slavic creature called the Leshy that has a very similar appearance in a lot of art I've seen it in, or it might be a deity. I'm not sure. I don't know much about it. I've just recently seen a lot of depictions of it on my Facebook, and so that is immediately what came to mind when I was reading that the Wendigo in Western pop culture has been like mixed up with that imagery with the antlers and the skull face, because like I'm just, to me the Wendigo is like a raging storm that carries you away straight out of the books, but if you see it and it's not in motion, then it's like this gaunt horror creature, like starvation as a thing, which I mean, the Wendigo kind of is a personification of starvation. Like, one of the things that I found very interesting was that the Wendigo, like one of the theories or like things that people believe about the Wendigo is that every time it eats, it grows in proportion to what it's eaten, so it's always hungry. It's always ravenous for more.
Oh, wow. Well, like, I'm going to be real with you. When I think Wendigo, maybe this is silly, but I think bear. Grizzly bear. Up north, grizzly bear. It's always starving. It's always hungry. It's always hunting.
Or polar bears.
No. I mean,
in real life, for real, polar bears are doing.
Oh God, no! You're so right. I mean, when I say it, I'm thinking like a ravenous, rabid, like grizzly bear.
Paint it white in its reality, though.
I know you are.
Sad thing.
It is sad. That is really sad.
That's scary too, because that is a terrifying thought of a ravenous bear coming upon you.
Yeah, that's like hungry,
as a human with flesh. That is like, I literally am having a hard time thinking of anything more scary. Like, the ravenous,
you are fucking dead. There's no getting out of that.
No, you're not. Yeah, like, it's not going to test to see if you're food. It's fucking hungry, and it's going to go until
I've seen pictures of, like, bears, and you can, like, look in their eyes and just see they're fucking wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying not to have moments of my camping
anxiety. That's okay. It's just a black bear.
We had a slightly aggressive bear that my husband had to chase off that like didn't just go away immediately, and anyway, like kind of scary. Anyway, so like when you throw in like ravenous because it's winter and like all the prey animals are hibernating and shit, and the bear's not hibernating because it doesn't have enough body fat to do so, and then it sees you.
That is me. That is my version of a Wendigo, 100%.
Shit, that's my version of I wouldn't go to Alaska probably for that reason. Although I want to go to Alaska, but like that's why I wouldn't go out in the wilderness in Alaska, because like I could see that happening.
So I think the reason it does happen.
I know. Happening to me.
I literally saw this documentary where this bitch like got mauled by a bear, drug herself to her house, fixed up her broken leg, and then shot and ate the bear later that month.
I feel like I saw that as well.
Yeah.
But like I grew up reading Reader's Digest with like so many stories about people that like had to walk up the mountain holding their skull on because they survived a bear attack.
That one
like
guy,
that shit was terrifying, y'all.
That one guy,
80s babies, you know what I'm talking about?
He was like, I can live with the bears. They're my friends.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah, no, because I saw a documentary on that. I saw a documentary on that guy, and it was actually pretty fucking horrific because they played the 911 call, and it was haunting to say the least, especially since his girlfriend was right there and saw the whole thing. But at the same time, I think the problem humans have, and this is a human thing.
We put human characteristics on animals that animals don't actually have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to believe they have.
No, they don't. They
don't.
Will eat you.
I know.
Like that badger will scratch your eyes out.
Yeah, like, but we do. I feel like he probably did that with the bear and was like, this is my cousin. This is my friend. Like, he loves me. Or like, you know, people who like, there was this one really sad one where this guy saved this rhino. This baby rhino, or I'm sorry, baby hippo. Yeah, what's his name?
You're talking about one of my favorite shows, like the episodes of. Like, it's the hippo. I can't remember. It was some long fancy name.
He had him
Marcellus.
for 15 years.
Marcellus.
Yes, it started with an M. He had it for 15 years.
They were French because of South Africa.
He drug him off into the water, and that's got to be horrifying. I mean, if you have him for 15 years, you grow to trust
you don't think it's going to, but really it's just that animal is putting up with you as long as that animal is going to put up with you. Like, I fucking love the show Deadly Attraction,
which really to me goes with Wendigo.
Yeah,
because it's your friend until it's fucking hungry, even though the Wendigo is never really a friend. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, maybe it'll leave you alone until it's fucking hungry, but it's always fucking hungry because it's a rabid bear.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and I see, like, if I'm gonna look at the Wendigo like as an actual thing, it is the fear of cannibalism in the dead of winter when you live in an area that is not full of plenty. Russia.
But seriously.
But yeah, no. Like, but I mean, and that's where, you know, like, because we were talking about where the myth comes from, like societally versus mythology-wise, and like, I can only see it from the where it comes from societally. That is all the connotations I have for the Wendigo. It's a warning that it doesn't matter how cold it gets, you don't fucking eat your wife and kids. Like, it's a warning that no matter how bad things are, you don't take more than you should. You know, because it is a warning against cannibalization under starvation circumstances.
I think in the psychological societal standpoint, I think it's more of an explanation as to why someone would randomly go crazy and eat their kids. Yes, it's a warning, but it's also like an explanation, like, this person must have done this because he was possessed, because we don't want to believe our family member or whatever is fucking crazy, which is where
we're using the word crazy loosely because there could be all sorts of different mental disorders,
like Wendigo psychosis,
that would lead to these behaviors. But like, because there was a guy that literally so I was listening to this thing about like Wendigo psychosis specifically, and it was about how some psychologists don't believe Wendigo psychosis existed, that it's a present day explanation for stuff that didn't really exist back then, and we're just like putting it on there. And then there's the other train of thought that no, Wendigo psychosis is an actual mental health disorder, predominantly experienced by a select group of people who grew up with the Wendigo mythology. But that it's actually like a mental health disorder. And there's two different schools of thought on it. And when I was listening to like this debate on the two different schools of thought, like one was about a man in like the 16 or 1700s. He was a fur trapper. He lived like 25 miles away from a Hudson Bay food source area. And his oldest son died. So he ate the son, but he also killed his wife and other 4 kids and ate them too when food was 25 miles away. So like they're like, that's Wendigo psychosis, because he could have gotten food. He wasn't really in a starvation situation. And it truly is a mental disorder, you know?
Well, to me, it's the Wendigo is similar in the sense of the European werewolf, where we're going to... There's no way somebody that we trust or somebody within our tribe or within our village would do something like this. It must be an outside,
and that makes a lot of sense, because the Western civilization made a connection between the Wendigo and
you're
the
right.
werewolf.
I did read that.
And that is where like the different depiction comes from, because they basically blended it with werewolves very much for that reason. But I also believe that the Wendigo stuff comes from a place of like trying to make sure people don't go down that route, or they don't mentally think of it as an option. Like, if you do that, you're evil. Because it's like, the Wendigo is definitely like an evil creature. It's got a heart of ice. There can be a foul smell associated with a Wendigo.
Like a decaying sort of thing.
Exactly.
It's very much demonic.
It's depicted as like skin stretched over elongated bones, that whole like starvation picture that we get from all sorts of different like dark winter things, which the Wendigo is a dark winter thing. It is very much reminiscent of starvation fears and cannibalism fears, because
hold on,
that's something people
you say
were
it's a dark winter thing. It makes me wonder if it has any sort of connection to some sort of dark winter deity. I only say that because Pan gets a bad rep for being god of the forest or guardian of the forest or whatever, because he's dark and he's scary. Well, it makes sense, like you said, that a winter whatever would represent the fear of starvation. Maybe he brings starvation with him, and with that he brings the cannibalistic thoughts. That sounds like almost a deranged deity to me. That's just...
I wonder if the association of Wendigo with greed and the destruction of the environment has anything to do with maybe what kind of deity it evolved from, if that is the case. Like we've seen with a lot of these other dark stories that we've been, like, if you've listened to our previous episodes, you've heard us uncover some more divine connections behind dark stories, where it's been
the Wild Hunt.
Yes, exactly, the Wild Hunt, Baba Yaga, all sorts of different things that they originally were one thing, and through time and influence from others, the church, have been demonized, because I don't know that I saw anything that listed anything about Wendigo literature pre-Europeans coming to America.
Well,
Did you see anything?
No, I didn't, and that was one thing.
Everything is through our lens, so we're getting it all fucked up and misconstruing things as we copy it down.
Well, my thought is the
indigenous people or natives,
the indigenous or First Nations, they didn't have a written word like we did.
But some of their descendants have written things about the Wendigo, but they've made it more like relevant
word
to the
of
current
mouth,
culture.
word of mouth, word of mouth.
Like they've made it like relevant to current culture, because like one woman represented a rapist as a Wendigo, very much like you were saying with the whole, it's used to explain why somebody in our tribe would act this way. Yeah. So, I mean, they made it very relevant to current culture, but with that same, like, root. But still, that the whole myth itself, I don't know that has been written about without it being through the European lens. Everything that I saw
I'm sure that there are, but, with us being predominantly European. I mean, that's just kind of what we've found. If there are stuff, then maybe it would be.
Yeah, and I had heard about some things that were, I listened to things that were written about, like that story with the man that, with the wife and kids, that was written by, a Cree gentleman, I think. I'm not sure. I was listening to a podcast that had a bunch of different Wendigo things, like whatever. So, I mean, it's been written about, but I don't know that the root has been written about, you know, since, you know what I mean? Like, we've talked about things that have been lost to, like you were saying, it goes from generation to generation, word of mouth.
Well, it's very similar to the indigenous, I think that would be the right word for the Scottish tribes as well, you know what I mean? Or the Irish tribes,
or the original Slavic, like I was just telling Maddie before this episode, most of the stuff about Mokosh has been lost. Like there's no
the truth is
lots of her.
We pretty much all originated from some sort of tribe because cities weren't the way that they were, you know what I mean?
And like all of it started by word of mouth or verbal tellings, verbal histories passed from generation to generation, and most of it didn't get written down until the 1300s. A lot of this stuff that we're able to find record of. You know what I mean? Like I didn't find anything from pre-1600s.
No, like a lot of what I found. I'm sure that there
if
absolutely
we're missing stuff, we apologize. Is the long-winded way of
right. Like there absolutely is stuff pre-1600s.
Right,
it's just
we
not
just
written
nothing
down.
that we could find. Yeah, like or nothing that I could find. Like I couldn't find any like pre-base. You know what I mean? Like pre-colonization, pre-Christian church coming over.
Right.
Which makes me go, I really wonder. Where some what's the right word? If there would be a deity that the Wendigo somewhere way back was associated with, and through time, like you were saying, has been made a dark winter creature, as opposed to some kind of elemental spirit,
right?
Because
or even a liminal spirit, because that's what death,
because it could represent death coming and getting you in the winter time
from starvation.
Because I literally I feel elemental spirit energy from the Wendigo. Not that I want to feel Wendigo.
Be careful.
Energy.
Be careful, Amber.
There's holy basil all over this thing right now. Just FYI, like we're protected.
So Lord, it's also said. I know I have to be very. Yeah, I am one of those that has to be careful with what I say because I'm like a paranoid bitch or a paranoid bitch.
Excuse me. Yeah.
So heart of ice. It is said the Wendigo has a heart of ice. I think again that goes with explaining why somebody in our tribe or one of our friends would behave such a way.
Do that. Yeah, because we've talked before. It's hard to understand how somebody could do that.
I still don't understand how somebody could do something. You know what I mean?
Demonic possession is a great explanation for some behavior.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree.
It really is. It doesn't make you feel better, but it makes you feel better that your loved one didn't do that.
Yes, exactly.
And so I definitely agree that that's where, werewolf, where that
Wolfman
coming
from. Well, I do that every time. Speaking of Wendigo, I'm curious on if y'all's watched the Hannibal Lecter series. I watched the first couple episodes. I don't even think I could get through the first season. Mostly because they canceled it. So why would I want to watch 4 episodes?
Oh, well, I started watching it when it came out.
Oh, okay.
I watched it actively. I had to wait for my episodes because they released them 1 week at a time. It was some bullshit.
Well,
I'm just kidding. It's fine. Do that. I'm not that impatient.
It's just I don't want to start a series that's not going to end. But
no, I get that. Shut up.
Right.
How does it end?
Firefly.
It ends with his wife saying, "Fuck you." What?
Why do they
What is going to happen? Oh my God. Sorry, guys.
It's Scary Movie 1. TV shows don't make people serial killers. canceling them. But anyway, Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
So if you've seen the show, Amber and I were just discussing, they had very Wendigo-y vibes they were going for.
They were
showing the
purposefully.
horns.
I had no idea because I didn't know about the Western pop culture thing. That was part of our discussion. Is like, I had no idea until this research. Like, I didn't get it. Like, and they were trying to pull in this Wendigo thing, which, like, to tie it in with the cannibalism. And, like, dude, we just kind of, like, came to this conclusion that, like, Hannibal Lecter was totally fucking with Will's head.
Right.
And
I see, when watching the show, I was like, he's trying to make this motherfucker a cannibal too.
And
like,
I really think he was trying to instill Wendigo psychosis, and
because
I think
he was
that's
a
how they were going to wrap it all up.
Shit, or
yes,
like
he was.
psychologist.
He absolutely was.
So he knew what he was doing, and I agree.
Totally
I feel like they were gonna wrap up the series with Will. Who is actually really handsome, and he was the guy.
I had such a hard time.
He was the prince from Ella Enchanted. I don't know if you watched. Yeah, I forgot. Prince Char.
Because he's something else that's not that, and not the guy from.
I may look it up if you don't mind.
Because, like, I know him from something else from before he was in Hannibal, and I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. And Mads Mikkelsen, who plays Hannibal, is kind of cute.
Oh my God,
be
no.
So fucked up.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was very rude of me. I shouldn't have said that. But, like, he's not attracted. I'm not attracted to. You know why? Because he looks German. Is he German?
He is, 100%.
He looks so fucking German.
He does. He's very handsome.
He really does.
But I don't remember.
So he does play in Ella Enchanted, Confessions of a Shopaholic. Oh, he played in Law and Order a little bit. So he's been in a lot. By the way, I just want to say, disclaimer, I'm not upset he looks German. I don't mean that in a hateful way. I just mean, if you look at him, he looks German. Like, I don't know. I hope everybody gets what I'm saying.
No. Oh, The Path. Yeah, no, I didn't like him, actually.
Is that a good show? Because I thought about...
Fucking love it.
Is it a comedy? It's not a comedy. It's about, like, some guy creating a cult, right?
It's so good.
And it's got the guy from
him, and
Yeah, I thought about doing
that.
that.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't like him from that show, but... Yeah, anyway.
I really think that Hannibal was trying to make him eat people, too.
Yeah.
Like, he was, like... Because he would, like, install shit, and I'm pretty sure he would, like... fall asleep and then wake up somewhere. So I was like, he's trying to make him eat people in his sleep.
I think he was trying to, like, make him go crazy to the point that, like, he'd be susceptible to all these other messages that he was giving him. That was my takeaway from the show.
Hannibal's a crazy motherfucker anyway. What, like, first of all, eating the same species, whether it be in animal or human. There's just something wrong about that. And unfortunately, I have a horrible story to share. And no, it doesn't have to do with eating people. No.
Because that was my first thought about animals that eat.
No, pigs. I used to live next to a pig farm, and it... Okay, but that's
you know what? There is something about cannibalism. Like, this whole thing is, like,
it's
my
disturbing.
Stomach. Yeah.
Well, my cousin and I were going to get sushi. And I got a notification on my phone that was like, oh, there's a car accident, car burn, blah, blah, blah. I was like, fuck, there was a car accident. Somebody died. We drive by that car accident. It smelled like roast pig, but wrong.
I've heard people smell
it smelled. It was me and my cousin were quiet for a second, and then we were like, that was not car. That was person. And I can honestly say the smell of a burning person, like meat, it smells wrong. And I think maybe it's an evolutionary trait.
Good, yeah.
Like, because it's like, danger, this is wrong, don't eat this is wrong.
Because, like,
you're not supposed to eat the same...
Well, because, like, there's the story about the wonderful sausage, and then there's the Tales from the Crypt episode where the guy's restaurant is failing, and it's a squid restaurant, because who the fuck opens, like, a barbecue squid restaurant? Like, because he was like all sorts of different kind of squid, like squid tacos and squid
maybe in Jamaica it's like
squid, yeah, no, this was in like New York City.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, actually, the mom from My So-Called Life is the wife on that episode of Tales from the Crypt, which also I started listening to the rewatch recap episodes of My So-Called Life, and so now I'm gonna have to go rewatch My So-Called Life because the teenage angst vibes. But anyway, Christopher Reeve, is he Superman?
Yes.
Yes, he's the guy that owns the restaurant.
Superman.
Okay.
R.I.P.
But so he owns the restaurant, and the hottie from
was he in a
Breakfast
wheelchair
Club?
at this point?
No,
Christopher Reeves is the one in the wheelchair, right?
I think so.
I'm gonna look it up. Sorry, go ahead, because he was.
But Judd Nelson is the guy that kills the guy and chops him up, and has the other guy sell his meat without knowing that he's selling his meat.
There was some motherfucker that did that in real life.
People were like, "Oh my god, that smells so good."
No.
And that was the whole thing, is like everybody could smell it, and so like they started making like hand over fist and shit. And then Judd Nelson tried to set them up against each other, and I don't remember her name on the Tales from the Crypt episode, but her name's Patty in My So-Called Life, so we're gonna say Patty. But Patty totally knew that Judd Nelson was like trying to get in between her and her husband, so
the only way
they murdered him.
The only way I can think to describe it is wrong.
That's good to know, because like when you see it in pop culture, like the whole cannibalism thing.
I was
like,
gonna say
the good sausage and
Todd.
Exactly, the meat pies. Everybody was like, "Oh, what's that smell? It smells so good. Oh, it's so delicious."
I don't think people would be like that in real life. I think people would be like that one bitch that was like Figo, oh blah blah.
I mean, there really was the guy that sold people as sausage.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Like people do. Like, don't feed me a meat that is not the meat you're saying I'm eating.
Oh my god.
I have stomach problems for one. For two, I can't be a cannibal. I can't eat a dog or a cat. Like, just come on.
I saw a little clip from the Jeffrey Dahmer show, which I won't watch. But they turned it into a meme, and it was kind of funny, but it shouldn't be. And he was like, "Here, eat this sandwich." She's like, "Fuck that, I'm not eating no mystery meat." He's like, "Why, are you a vegetarian?" "No, you're fucking creepy." Like, I'm not a vegetarian, you're just a psycho.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
She's like, "No.
Mystery meat, my motherfucking ass." No, like.
But at least Hannibal is classy about it, you guys. At least Hannibal's like.
He's like, fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Exactly. Like, he got some, like, nice-ass mushrooms on there. Like if anybody's gonna be classy about it, it's Hannibal, not any of them others. They're
Look, if we keep talking about Hannibal Lecter, I'm gonna mention that scene that made you almost barf the last time. So we gotta move.
We gotta move on.
Yeah, because I all I can see in my head is Ray Liotta. So let's just move on.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you didn't like it. I'll tell. If I can do it if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
He cuts up Ray Liotta's
please stop,
brain.
please stop.
See,
please
I
stop.
told you.
Okay, I remember. I forgot. Like,
I was trying to save you. I'm sorry. I was like, but that is all I could think about.
Lord.
When you said Hannibal Lecter does it classy, I was like, oh
but
my
he
God.
don't.
Oh my God. Oh, I did not see this going
say,
this
like,
way.
straight up,
There's a lot more
cannibalism is not a joke.
No, it's not.
But there is a lot of it in pop culture.
And it's because it's a fear. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's why we're
oh my
so
God,
bothered.
what about
like,
that fucking Xena Warrior Princess episode when the cannibals fucking kidnapped Gabrielle and Xena had to get all sexy and naked and rub mud all over herself to save Gabrielle? Like,
totally forgot about
that. I love
Xena. Totally forgot about that. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, so that everybody's aware, you know, please realize we're making jokes because it's a super uncomfortable.
It's scary.
It's super uncomfortable.
Scary.
So it's like
terrifying.
To get through it, apparently we're making a lot of jokes. And it's been funny. You've been laughing. We know you have.
Right. So I'm curious, do you guys know much about the Wendigo? Or
do you know anything pre-1600s? Because I couldn't find anything pre-1600s. Just
I want to say that I'm curious to know, but at the same time, Wendigo kind of scary.
Yeah, because like I know the movie Ravenous was kind of based on the Wendigo.
Oh, there's a new movie coming out. I'm sorry. It's called Bones and All. And it's about this teenage girl that eats people, bones and all. I wonder if she has anything to do with the Wendigo. I will have to look at that because I've been kind of wanting to watch that movie.
Because I was thinking, I did not realize that the movie Ravenous, but I mean, it makes total sense. The movie Ravenous with Guy Pearce, and I don't remember who else is in it, but it's like, it's about moving out west in the gold rush, and like basically about how, he says this line, and it's like basically that people are going to keep coming and keep coming. They're going to be hungry for more and hungrier for more and hungrier for more. And it is like straight up supposed to be an like the Wendigo energy allegory toward gold rush mentality. And it's not wrong. I mean,
no, it's not.
Really, it was all consume, consume, consume. And I'm sorry, but that's all it is now. It's consume, consume, consume. It's build more, build more, build more. Progress for the sake of progress, which really just eats up Mother Nature. Yeah. There's no need for it. If we're going to build more buildings, why don't we build like places for people to be bettered? Like, I'm not going to say homeless shelters, right? But at the same time, like, I feel like our government could do some of the things that we see memes shared about that other governments provide. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's a lot of things that we could do, but I think we got stuck in that westward movement. We got stuck in that consumption, auto-consumption, consumption for the sake of consumption. And that's what the Wendigo was trying to warn us against. Yeah. And if I missed the mark and you know it, you should tell me in the comments without being too mean. So if you're watching on YouTube, of course.
And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know what subscribers we're at. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah. But definitely, if you're listening to us on Spotify, Good Pods, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform, go ahead and subscribe and you will be notified upon all of our new episodes. And give us a rating.
Definitely check us out on Facebook, by the way, because our Facebook is growing and we need you.
Oh, yeah. We're giving you fun little reels and witch tips.
Yes.
Yeah. So the other socials are Classiest Witches on Twitter and Witches Talking Tarot on Instagram.
All right.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Don't be too cold this winter. I meant that in a good way. Like, it's just tying it in with the Wendigo thing. Thanks for coming to Sit a Spell.